yeah, I'm pretty impressed with it myself, if I may say so. All right, I've seen a lot of people, they just keep twitching to a point that the wire will break. We use lots of these things. We use roughly 30 to 40 tons of this stuff every year. You'll find that repotting aren't as glamorous as working on trees. Now, when I repot a tree like this, the pot still has a front because it's a circular pot. I need to check it a couple of times. Check twice, pot once, I suppose. That's how I would do it. I enjoy doing this a lot. This is almost like Christmas for me, unwrapping my present. So 50% off straight away. I'm just working my way, teasing out all the roots, making sure they don't tangle, they don't cross, and they emerge radially from the center of the trunk. Just trim away all these excess fine roots, just rake out the base. We can prune the roots back quite hard to fit it in the shallow tray. That one is emerging a bit too high, so we can remove that. Let's make a cut. Now the tree is ready to be potted. Okay. Now we are ready to pot it up. I've chosen this pot. It's deeper than what I like, but you can see because we prune it back so much, it easily sits in there. Okay, I like it too shallow, but the pot I had, the root spray actually was too wide for the pot I like. So I put it in this pot, roughly about there.
You spoke before about the colour, matching the colour.
Yes, yes.
So the maple most of the time is going to have green leaves, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
So you match the colour of the pot to the green leaves, and maybe if it turns red in autumn, then
yeah,
that contrast is also good.
Yeah. I find that you can't really go wrong with cream or a light green glaze. Cream and green, they're actually quite okay for all the deciduous trees. Cream color pots picks up the color of the bark, whereas the light green color, it's got a bit of resemblance to the bark, but also the green is underneath. Okay, so I chosen this pot, but it's again too deep for my liking, but it would do. It would do. All right. Now we got to make a pin to. Where is it?
I'm excited for this. I always wondered how to do this properly.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. This is our way to do it. Okay. I always stress that this is not the only way, but it's how we do it. We do need to secure this to the bottom of the pot. Sorry, the drainage hole. Otherwise they can move. Okay. So we make I call them like a butterfly pin. So what I do is like this. I will get a length of wire. I'll make a loop like that, and then this goes up. This will go to the drainage hole, and then we can then secure it. And we do it the other side. All right, that sort of resembles the wing on a butterfly, and the distance between these two is definitely then the diameter of the hole, of the drainage hole. Okay, and then this comes up. All right, there's our pin. Okay, all right, we'll do one more.
Those shears that you use there.
This is a long handle wire cutter. I have 4 different pairs of wire cutters. This will cut everything, but I mainly use this to cut the thicker gauge wire. I would say anything from 4 mil onwards, this will cut easily. This is similar to that, only the longer handle. And this is to cut away, let's say the tree has wire all wrapped around. Longer handle allows you to reach in there. And whenever I'm wiring something, I'll cut a long length with this, and this fits in a hand. And I would wire one branch, wire another, cut, same length, wire, cut. So instead of having to leave it down, wire, pick it up, drop it off, wire, pick it up, it fits in your hand. So in this case, I don't need these two, I just need one of these two. So I prefer this longer handle one too. Okay, so that's just the wire cutters.
You'd make a good hairdresser too, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, same principle though, same principle. All right, so there's another pin. All right, now there's a couple of ways to do this. I've seen people put the butterfly side, I say, the wing side on the top or down the bottom. I think it makes no difference, but to me, the wire can be quite sharp. So you can imagine you put it through there, as you go picking up the tree, you could hurt yourself, come into contact with that. So because of that reason, and that reason only, I prefer the butterfly wing down the bottom. All right, we'll make sure it's secure, push it in flat, and then make sure this wire comes up straight, and then we'll feed our mesh through and push down. There, it's not ever going to move again. All right, the same thing.
You've done that before, haven't you?
I've done it a few thousand times, yes, a few thousand times. I can tell you some of the volunteers, they are doing this, they're having trouble. I said, that's all right, you know, just as long as it's secure. I don't really mind if it doesn't look quite good, but it has to secure. Okay, so that's that. Then we need to put wire through. 2 wire, tie the tree down. I like to measure before we put it in. Some people just cut a length and try to thread it through the bottom. I like to measure. So what I do is, okay, I want to put 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2 lengths of wire through them. Okay, so we can do this. So I'd like to measure it before we cut. So that will go through, and that's on the inside of the drainage hole, not over there. Okay, what I meant is we want to make sure so it's not coming through there, it's coming through right on the inside. So when we pull the branch, when we put the wire together, we're not pulling the whole bit of mesh towards the other side. All right, so that's how I measure it. And how much length do you keep from it? So I make sure that it can reach other side. Okay, I'm gonna cross there, I'll see how things go, but I'll make sure it has enough length to go across to the other side. All right, so you can see how, because of that, just thread through and done. All right, just push to the side. So the same thing.
That's good. It's got those extra little holes.
Yeah.
Quite often they don't, so I always find it hard to get good purchase on the tree.
Yeah.
When you're coming from those 2 holes.
Yeah.
Bigger holes.
If you don't have those 2 tie wire holes, you can still put 2 lengths of wire. 1, 2, like 2 lengths of wire.
Yep.
Do both of them, you could still do the same thing. Okay, so there are other ways around it, but they're on the inside of the drainage hole, and just feed it through. Okay. All right, and that's pretty much the pot prepped to go. Now the next step is to talk about the potting mix. I noticed there were a couple of questions regarding the potting mix that we use. So let's have a look what we use. Now our potting mix, disclaimer, we use lots of these things. We use roughly 30 to 40 tons of this stuff every year. So we have them pre-made for us. They just got brought in, already mixed in the factory, brought in, tip it in the soil bay, and then off we go. So the components that we have in there, our 2 parts pine bark. So the pine bark is roughly 2 to 6 mil pine bark. 1 part coarse river sand. Okay, river sand will be again about 2 to 4 mil size. Okay, so pine bark, coarse river sand, and 1 part scoria. So scoria is similar to the lava rock that you guys would refer to. All right, so we use 2, 1, 1. Okay, so that's our component, and you notice we try to keep them as uniform in size as possible, as much as we can. Obviously, sometimes it's not perfect. Sometimes you get big chunks like that, but mostly they are pretty much between that 4 to 6 mil size. And we will use this potting mix for anything and everything here. All right, and you can see we have mixed the osmo coat through them while we are repotting. If you buy any bags for potting mix from us, it doesn't come with the fertilizer in them. It does come with already has the trace element mixed through them. But we don't add the fertilizer in them only because osmo coat is such a fertilizer that they react to the temperature. So imagine this is in a bag, clear bag, with the fertilizer in them, but the bag can get heated up quite easily in the summer month. Once the temperature exceeds roughly about 24, 25 degrees, they will burst, they will release the nutrients. And the bag in there can go so hot. You can have all the nutrients, you can have a dumping of nutrients too much in a go. So we don't mix the fertilizer in them until we want to use them. All right, so this has been just mixed prior to use. So we'll keep them separate. But the potting mix itself does come with 2-1-1 plus trace elements mixed through them. Okay, so we add the fertilizer, solid fertilizer to it when we are potting them up. So that's our.
What does each component do essentially?
Now, don't quote me on this. I'm not an expert. I don't really have a scientific background, but from my experience, the pine bark provides water holding capacity. All right, so this retains moisture. This provides aeration because in the potting mix, it's a mixture of a balance of oxygen and water. That needs to be a nice balance there. So it retains moisture, but also provides aeration. So these two does that for us pretty well. So in the past, we always have just these two components. I would say 2 parts this, 1 part that. But then this year we added scoria to it. All right, because a lot of people use lava rocks. In the US, I think in Japan they use Kiria, which is volcanic lava rock to it. I'm not 100% certain about the different properties as to what they provide to it, but to me it would be similar aeration, and also they have a lot of crevices in the scoria, a lot of air pockets because they are volcanic rocks. So I would say that also helps with the roots heating that split open. Also, it would trap a lot of nutrients and other things to it. All right, so this year is the first time where we have introduced scoria to the mix, and we have found that they have actually worked quite well. I'll add one more thing. We have used a potting mix that has a lot of finer pine bark, no scoria, and this, but finer pine bark. And we have had a lot of issue with curl grubs growing in that potting mix. And that has actually killed quite a few of our trees because of that. And we have found that since we introduced scoria to it, making the potting mix more gritty, the presence of the curl grub seems to have reduced a lot. Okay, so we might find 1 or 2 instead of 20 in a pot. All right, so that the one that we have plenty of curl grubs in there eating the roots, munching away, killing the tree, doesn't seem to happen a lot with this mix. Okay, I think it's the abrasive, gritty mix in them that they don't like as much. But when it's just mostly pine bark and not a lot of gritty stuff in there, they tend to thrive in that condition, and that's not great for us. Okay, just to make that point, as far as what they do individually, there's a lot of information online, you can look it up. But that seemed to have worked quite well for us. Okay, so we are still trialing, but this is what we use. And like I said, we use this on everything and anything here. The only difference would be in the fertilizer we use. For all the general purpose, we use this general purpose osmo coat. It goes for 5 to 6 months, which is the growing season. And then for any flowering trees, we would use Nutricoat like this. So this is more for flowering trees, anything flowers, azaleas, gardenias, camellias, cerise, anything with flowering trees, we would add this. Again, you just have more for flowering trees. And we do mix blood and bone Blood bone in the potting mix too. That again is a slow release fertilizer. Okay, so we will mix them up while we are potting trees up here. Okay. All right, let's get potting. Often what I like to do is a thin layer. Obviously, we saw earlier there's not much happening. You know, we have trimmed this quite well. So I need to quite a bit of potting mix down there to raise the height. But we often have a mound in the center because there's, now you can tell it concaved in a little bit with the base. Okay, because we trim all that. All right, that's what we're trying to create. So it concaved in a little bit. So we need a bit of mound in the pot so that when we sit it on, we can squeeze it down so that we eliminate all the air pockets under there. Now, I said earlier, the front of the tree is roughly here. That's the best root, but everything's leaning away from me. Branching not as good. I would say actually here is the best spread. Yep, there we go. Now, regardless of the style of the tree, we rarely pot up the tree having the trunk smack bang in the center of the pot. Even if the tree was a formal upright tree with a straight trunk, we try to create asymmetry. Now, there was a bit of discussion about nature being random. We try to create trees that's more random, that's more asymmetrical, meaning it's not the same on either side. So this tree, if you look at it, the trunk leaning slightly towards the right side. So then in that case, I would often like to offset it slightly to the left a little bit. If you can imagine, it leans to the right, and if you put it against that, then it's very off balance, it's going to tip over. All right, so we need to create that sort of visual stability with the position of the trunk. All right, just slightly off center to the right-hand side. All right, let me check. That's too low, so we're going to raise it.
Why was it too low?
It was too low because if I'm looking at it from, that's the lip of the pot, it was sitting too low, it was sitting there. So I couldn't see the spread of roots. All right, slightly off center to the left-hand side. All right, make sure, okay, from the side, the tree is vertical, coming slightly towards the front. I think that's pretty good. Okay, nice, we can still see a nice spread. I would sit it down a bit lower than usual because a lot of the surface roots are still too young. All right, so we'll let them gain a bit more strength, get a bit more thickness before we raise it further up. All right, we could have raised it up that, but I'll sit them down a bit more this time. This is the first transition to bonsai pot. We still want to make sure that those fine roots are covered. Okay, so we don't want to expose them too early. All right, so that will do for this time. So once I've done that, I like to just secure the tree in tentatively with the wire. Okay, let's see how we can do this. We're gonna have to go across like this, like that, and it's gonna have to go across to the back. All right, so we'll just tentatively like that. I like to find somewhere, obviously the tree has quite a large root spread, so anywhere I have is pretty good because there's enough solid root base down there I can tie it down to. All right. Okay, and then we just backfill with a lot more soil of the pre-made potting mix that we have. All right, now I'll make an important point here. We use a chopstick to work the soil in between the roots. So we need our both hands. The chopstick is almost like a little probe and feeling, okay, is there resistance there? If there is, I know there's a root there, but you can see, okay, there's a bit of opening. Then my other finger is working the soil in there. So I'm pretty much using the chopstick to feel where there are any gaps. Okay, and then there's a hard roots right there, so yeah, don't need. Okay, there's another opening there. All right, so your fingers will help work it in until it's nice and solid. Okay, we'll turn it around, we'll keep going. All right, so I'm not poking holes. I'm using this to just feel whether they are presence of roots or they are absence of roots. And if they are, we work it in. We work soil into those gaps. All right, put that in there. We're not just doing that. That's pointless. Okay, so we gotta work it in, not too hard, otherwise we're damaging a lot of fine roots. I'm just feeling my way through. Okay, there's a bit of a hollow in there. All right, so we push it in. You gotta take your time with this. You only get to do it once a year. If you do it every year, or could be once every 3-4 years. If you do it every 3-4 years, so it takes time to make sense to take extra effort while you're doing this. All right, we just want to make sure that the new soil has nice firm contact with the new roots. All right, so that they can grow into one another as quickly as possible. All right, making sure that there's no loose pockets in there. So it's actually all pretty good. So once we've done that, we just scrape away all the excess. I would like the soil level to sit below the rim of the pot. Okay, I don't want it to be right there, to be too high, need to sit below the rim. Okay, usually by about 5 mil will be pretty good. So that's really, when you water a tree, the soil can go through, not just hits the surface, goes out. And also, a lot of times, if you melt it out too high, like that, all this will be washed out. So we are wasting a lot of potting mix just by doing that. So I like to sit it just below. All right, so the sides will be just pushed down a little bit. That's why I need to make sure that it was at the right level. I need to check a couple of times. Check twice, pot once, I suppose. That's how I would do it. All right, now we've done that, we need to tie it in. So we need a pair of pliers. A pair of good pliers is a very underrated piece of bonsai tools, and I use it all the time to help me with anything to do with wire, really. So when let's say if we wire a branch, instead of just bending with our hand, we can grab the wire and help us bend. It gives us a lot more control with a longer handle, gives us better control other than bending it, bang, it can break. But with this, we can control it a lot better. All right, so when we're wiring, this is perfect. In this case, obviously, then we need to use this to help us tie the wire in there. So I like the one with a longer handle, pointy tip. And then with this, what we do is we need to pull first. All right, don't twitch just yet. Pull first, and then you can turn. All right, I've seen a lot of people that just keep twitching to a point that the wire will break. This being aluminum wire, they can break quite easily. So I'll pull first and turn. All right, and that's pretty secure. The same thing. Pull and turn. That's about right. Okay, and with a bit of wire cutter, we can cut the excess off and push it down. Push it down. All right, and cover all that up. What I like to do is just to further tighten it, I'll just give a little twitch down the bottom. All right, if that's all done well, you should be just lift up. The tree is not moving at all. All right. Okay, so that's one done. All right, so now the tree is good to grow again. I'll do a bit more pruning on the tree, but in terms of setting it up, you can see the barrier on that is actually very, very wide. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with it myself, if I may say so. That's only been root pruned 6 times from a little stick. So that's pretty good. And really, if you do it well, you can get that from a stick in 6 to 7 years. That's not out of reach. Okay, so there you go. So that's one done for you.
Very good.
Now let's do something a bit different. This is a Japanese red pine. It's making them into sort of windswept, cascade, windswept style. And I'm planning to put it in these pots, and we'll see how we go. Let's discover together what we have in there. The candles are emerging. You can see they're just starting to grow now. So we can get a real half straight away. Well, I won't go as hard and as far in there as we did with the trident maple. More of the same, trimming these roots back. But still plenty of roots there, so the tree should be fine. And let's see if that looks any good. Yeah, I think it's quite appropriate. Good size, good depth. We don't want it to be too tall, otherwise it can look quite unstable, so that's quite squat. And then a bit of width there, so it's quite, it provides stability, the visual stability with the width in there.
Do you have to allow for the weight of it hanging over as well? Like to counter that?
Hence, I don't choose very tall pot. You know, if it's something with a bit more height, that would mean that the base will be narrower, then it can really be unstable. So I use a wider base one, although it does taper down, but this pot is actually quite heavy. Yeah. It's heavier than the tree, really. All right, so it has enough weight to hold the tree in place. Now, in terms of potting it in, as much as I say, we tried not to put it in right in the center. This tree, I will still do the same thing, but I will still move it slightly across. Wouldn't be there, slightly across to the other side too. Okay, but because it's so leaning so heavily to one side, we want to offset it slightly too. But that's actually got a pretty decent root base there. Now this pot, it has 3 drainage holes in there too. Sometimes you only get one with one hole, one large one in there. And then the little trick that we use is we have a thicker piece of wire, and then we'll wrap the tie wire around a couple of times. Like that, obviously, still make it to the width of the pot of the draining hole. And you can see how this then is able to feed through that. All right, and that will still allow us to tie it down. You'll find that repotting aren't as, what's the word, glamorous as working on trees. All right, it's more of the same thing, working out what's under there, and trying to make sure that the tree will carry all the issue and make sure the tree has a good amount of new soil, sorting out on the roots. It's just some of those basic things. But if it's done well, the new growth, the new environment that we created down there will speed up the development of the tree, and everything else will grow better from the top. And often when I see a sick tree, often there's something wrong down there in the root system. This one was too wet, too mushy, so we have to sort that out. Okay, I'm sure in this new pot, the tree will grow a lot better. Often I get asked questions, okay, how do you know when to repot a tree? And we just say, we can't just say, okay, every 2 years, but how do you know when the tree needs repotting? And that's when we can look at a tree and say, well, it was growing better last year, and it has really slowed down, and the foliage is not as bright, not as vibrant, not as vigorous. Then there's something needs to be done there. But let's say it's a tree that you've never worked on. It's a new tree that you acquire. You look at it, it's not looking quite well. Obviously, we can look at the foliage and see how it's growing. Is it strong? Is it healthy? Is it lots of new foliage? Is it growing? Then we can assess. And often new trees I acquire, I would like same year, regardless of when it was done. I need to see whatever medium and how good or how bad that is. So often new trees are reported the first year regardless of when it was done, because I need to see what that is. And also like to swap it out to my potting mix, so that every tree that I grow, they are in the same potting mix. I need to guess, okay, is it too wet, is it too dry? I know exactly what's in there because they are all grown in the same mix. Make it more uniform so that it's easier for me to monitor their progress. Now, when I repot a tree like this, the pot still has a front because it's a circular pot. It's either the 1 feet pointing in the front or in between the two. Okay, even that's okay too. All right, so for me, I'm half more leaning towards having, let's see how that looks, in between the 2 feet. So it looks more stable. Whereas it's 1, it looks very pointy, that it's very, yeah, that it's narrowed down. Okay. That's why I melt it up so we can do also adjustment to it in the soil. And some of these are hanging out, we can trim some of these back a little bit more. But we'll work them in.
Yeah, so I've got a full cascade. I might have shown you a photo of it once. It basically comes out and right down like that.
Yep.
So kind of, would you still put it in a shallow pot like that?
Just say, for instance, imagine they both hold the same amount of volume in soil. Because it's so tall, the openings is so small. When everything gets watered, this one would take up a lot more moisture, a lot more water than something like this. And when the sprinkler goes on, these things in 10 seconds gets a lot more water than the opening in this. Because of that, I don't really use tall cascade pots anymore. But I also find that if you have a very tall pot hanging down, I kind of find it doesn't accentuate the length that's coming off. When it's like that, you can see it's growing out exceeding the pot. You can really appreciate the length hanging off.
The one that I've got is in a tall pot and it blew over once.
Oh, yeah.
So there's that as well.
Yeah, there's that as well because, again, it just, because so tall, it's unstable. Yeah. Someone asked me that question before and I gave me a bit of a thought. How I learned about bonsai probably is more self-taught. I never had a chance to go to Japan and go to someone to learn under anyone. So I was never told, do it like this and do that. I was never having someone to tell me to do it in a certain way. So whatever I do now is coming from try to do it the best possible way and make adjustment as I go over the years. So I never had someone say, well, you report it in this way. And I would say that's something that you probably will be told to when you learn in Japan or in any other country to train under a certain master. That was never the case for me. So I had to work my way through. So I guess that's also why I share things with you guys with a reason behind it. And that's how I come to understand how to do things like this. It was never been told, okay, do it like this. Why? I don't just do it like this. That's what often what you'll be told if we train under someone. But often, okay, why does it work? Why does it not work? And that's sort of how I come to learn to do it. And I'm sharing that process with you as in the thinking process behind why I make those choices. And not because it's right, that's just because that's how I discover how to do them. Okay, and that's what has worked for me.
Quite often it's the best way to learn, and that experience, can't beat it.
Yeah, yeah. Would I have liked to have learned under someone in the very early stages? Maybe, but I also find that can be a bit limiting because you've been told one thing and really you are not meant to challenge that. You're just meant to just do that year after year and until until you've learned the basics. And I think I made that point in previous videos. It's important to learn the basics, but it's also important to let nature guide you, let the different random situation in a tree guide you, and then learn to work with the tree. So both can exist. Okay, I'm not saying one is better than the other, but that's how I learn about bonsai, and I'm sharing how I learn about bonsai with you. All right, so same thing, we'll work them in, work it in there because again, it's very, very lopsided in terms of the weight. So I want to make sure that it's as fully packed in and firm as we can. And you can see I purposely position this wire here so we can tie it on this side. so it's not tied down there. So we can tie it on the opposite side to anchor it down. All right, doing a last check before we tie it down. Yeah, so, yeah, that's pretty good. All right. Pull and twist. I don't mind that exposing a bit of wire in there. I think sometimes in the attempt try to hide all the wire, it's obviously if you can hide it and still have a function, great. But I don't mind it sometimes. It just make it easier. Really, we have to pot up hundreds of these trees. We try to make it as efficient and as aesthetically pleasing.
So you won't be sitting there placing moss delicately.
No. And I always found that moss is very temporary. It's only there when you put it on, place it on nicely. After a week or two, the moss will tend to blacken and die off. It's either that or the birds will come along and will pick all the moss away. And I used to do that for at least 5-6 years. I try to keep them in there, but I just found that they never can really grow into the potting mix that we have. Moss can really overtake the whole surface. Sometimes we have trees in there with no attempt to grow moss. The moss just grow on them with the moisture that we provide. And the moss just become a carpet of covering the whole surface. And the soil just can't breathe through that. So often we remove the moss just to make sure that water can get through, air can get through. Because when we water the trees properly, water push all the old air out and in effect drawing new air in. And when we have moss, full of moss in there, it sort of slow down that process. And also I like to be able to see the potting mix because that tells me exactly how wet or how dry that is. I don't need to guess, I could just look at it. Yeah, so that to me, in terms of looking after these many trees, I try to make sure that things that we do, make it easier for us to take care of every tree without having to guess, having to prop, a moisture meter, I think that's what I call them in there. When you can see the soil, you can pretty much tell. And also by lifting up the tree, whether it's heavy or whether it's light, you can tell cues that you can look for to help you judge how wet or how dry the tree is, the soil is.
Very good.
Okay.
Might be a good time to talk about post-potting pruning care.
Yes. Okay. Someone posted a comment about the post-repotting care. You guys saw that we have a 1/4 of an acre size shade house in there. Almost every tree that we repotted goes in there first. The reason why is, actually the logic is very simple. You just saw how much roots we just remove. Okay, and the balance of foliage to the roots is being disturbed because we remove so much roots. So when the foliage begin to grow, the root system has been just chopped in half, maybe 2/3 or even 90% of the root ball comes off. There's no supply of water straight away to feed all the foliage. Therefore, on a hot and windy day, when the tree is drying up, it will struggle because the pump is not pumping up. Therefore, your foliage will begin to dry up and you might lose branches because there's not enough supply coming through in time. So we often try to keep it in the shade house or put even on the ground, not high on the bench, just to make sure the tree has about 2 to 4 weeks window to re-establish the root system. Then after you can see good growth on the tree, it's moving along, then you can put it back up. So we always do that, okay? Some people might not feel that's necessary, but taking into account how much roots we just remove, that's an important step for us. Yeah, so you always go into the shade house first.
So for the people at home, put it under a larger tree in the shade?
Under a larger tree, in the shade, away from strong wind. The wind is the killer here. Wind can actually dry them up very, very quick. We can still be in the middle of winter, but if you have one day of strong wind blowing right against the tree 24 hours, you dry it up very, very quick. All right, so you might just put it on the ground, just shelter it from strong wind.
And also maybe a frost if there was an unusual frost that you didn't know.
Yeah, so that's why it's undercover. It's away from all those things. Are we saying that if you don't do it, the tree will die? No, I'm not saying that. Most trees will probably still kick along and will be just fine, but it probably take a bit longer, okay, for the tree to continue because the tree is now in a weakened state. Make no mistake about it. We prune so much off the roots. We can't be reckless and say, well, that's fine, just leave it out there and it'll be around. We can't be. It's pretty irresponsible. We need to provide as much care as we can to the tree until the tree gets over that hump and then you continue to grow. With a lot of younger trees, we'll probably show you how to prune a younger tree. You can get away with a lot of trees like that, but all older trees, they are older, so they need a bit more extra care to make sure that they get over this stressful operation. The tree now needs to recover, just like if you had your gut open and someone did something on it. You don't want to eat big food, you don't want to eat steak straight away. Maybe you want to, but you just eat all the simple things and slowly recover and then don't do anything too strenuous. That's what we are doing to the tree. Okay, we don't give it as much protection, making sure, yeah, it's growing nicely, then we can start, yeah, out in full sun, you can start feeding the tree. So this first post root pruning, as severely as this, needs a bit more extra care. So just all it is in a shelter area. That's it. There's nothing extra that we need to do to it.
Okay, so we've just finished putting it in a new pot. What about watering straight away? Do we give it a water now or?
Okay, I have always personally watered straight away because the potting mix can be dry and the moisture can be sucked out the other way, I suppose. Instead of drawing it in, it's been sucked out.
Yeah, okay.
So we always water straight away within an hour. Yeah. What's the scientific logic behind it? I'm not too sure, but I just know that from experience, that's not a good idea to just leave it there, not water in. Okay, so osmosis, reverse osmosis.
Yep.
I think that's how we call it. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Very good. Thank you for that.